tuned to Evergreen Media Network. I am Cindy Schwartz, and this is the Patient Partner Show. We're also a podcast, so look us up on Spreaker. Jeannie Rolla, my co-host tonight. Today, we're going to talk about, Jeannie, this is an interesting topic about organ donation. I have a couple of personal stories with friends and stuff that maybe we'll get to that wasn't the greatest avenue for them to go, but they didn't realize it at the time. But you want to start this podcast with a specific story, which is very disturbing. So go ahead and do that.
Yeah. This is a story that has taken place or has been published recently about a transplant donor wakes up on the operating table as they prepare to harvest his heart. And this is really scary. This donor, He was there in the hospital because of drug overdose, and they pronounced him brain dead. And then they took him to the cardiac cath lab because they were going to do viability testing on his heart. And there in the lab, according to the story, he showed signs of life, but he was given drugs to quiet him down, and they went on with the test. And then he was later taken to wherever they harvest the heart. And again, he was showing signs of life. He had his eyes open and he was crying. And I guess at least 2 doctors in there said, no, we're not going to do it. We're not going to have anything to do with this. Mm-hmm. And according to the story of someone in there, that allegedly the coordinator of the harvesting was trying to get others to come in to take this man's heart, even though he wasn't brain dead anymore. This is kind of scary. Of course, the person, this donor or coordinator, is denying those allegations. But this and the man is alive to this day. He has suffered some disability, but he is alive. He's under his sister's care. But to me, Cindy, this is a real scary thing, because then that makes me think, well, how many others aren't brain dead and they've taken their organs? And also, how many people, maybe they go to the family and say, your so-and-so is not going to make it. They're on the donor list. Can we keep them alive to harvest? And you know, people will say yes, not really thinking that maybe they're not really brain dead, or it's kind of scary, because at that time when they come, you're not thinking clearly because you're dealing with the horrific issue of your loved one being sick, and then they're saying they're not going to make it, and that's then on top of that we need to harvest their organs. It's a lot to take in for anyone, I would think. And that just makes me worry that how many people have suffered the same thing, and they weren't so lucky as this man was, that he is actually still alive. It just really, makes you think. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that the organ donation program is not a good one. I personally am not an organ donor, nor do I plan to be. But a lot of people are, and good for them. I think that they're doing a worthwhile thing. But also, in the back of my mind, as someone whose husband has suffered medical harm, I wonder, is everything just as what they say it is or not?
Yeah, well, that goes back to the ethics and the morals and those kind of things. I mean, how many arguments have we had about that? This is besides being sad, it's sick. If this really happened, I mean, and I know that it really happened. If if you're saying that it did, the stories and stuff, but it brings into the viability of what the organ donor platform is. We've heard stories too, so just throwing this out again, they're stories. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, you aren't either, Jeannie. So many stories that more well-known people will get the organs first. Mm-hmm. Okay. People that have, I've heard stories, people like you say, that have organ donor checked on their driver's license, they're the ones they're going to harvest first. Maybe they're going to, many people have said this. I don't know if there's data, facts about it. Who's actually going to admit to any of this stuff? I just don't see it happening, except for this case of this poor soul. okay, we'll go ahead. We'll try to save them, but yeah, really, we can do more with the harvest and the organs. I mean, again, it's just like it's just the heinousness of morality and the degeneration of society. I don't know what it is. At the end of the day, is it always about the dollar sign? So I can hear so many people saying, we don't do that, and so many people don't do that. It's sad for the ones that do. And it's sad for, that you'd have to hear a story like this. It's just unbelievable. So the other thing that brings into that, and this is why you and I decided to talk about this, because we're going to do another podcast about it as well, is I asked you to look up some data about, well, what's the viability of someone actually getting, so this person sadly was a drug addicted to illicit drugs, street drugs, whatever. So what's the viability of harvesting someone's organ to actually give it to a person that's not a drug addicted person? And how is that going to work in their body? So I wondered about that, because that just brings another avenue to what is, the legal ramifications for this stuff. Are there studies that say that these hearts or kidneys or whatever you're going to use from a person that's a drug-addicted person for a long time, habitual drug-addicted person, or if that matters at all? And you did look some stuff up, like I said, that we're going to talk about. Yeah, I mean, where at the end of the line, where at the end of the day do we draw the line and say, enough already? Is it always about money? Is it always about saving lives? Is everybody a guinea pig? It's just crazy. Hopefully this is one of those ones that just things didn't go the way they were supposed to, or that, they meant to be the right way, that people in much of this instance did the right thing to save this person's life at the end of the day. But wow. Do you want to bring more of this stuff on the table? We're already fighting with this, saying, what are we? Is everyone a guinea pig? It's so sad for the people that are in this for the right reason. The doctors, the medical people, the staffs, the facilities, the patients, the research people, the drug companies that are in it for the right reason. Geez Louise, at the end of the day, what are we supposed to think when these stories are proven true? So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, Cindy. People don't realize that medical people are human beings, and all human beings have the ability to either do good or to do bad.
Yeah.
So, you always have to be aware of that. You hope that they all want to do good, but it's just not possible that all are going to do good.
Right.
I mean, this guy had two doctors that when he did show signs of life, they just sedated him and went on. Then when it came time to harvest, he had other doctors who said, no, we're not going to do this because this guy is not brain dead. So, I mean, it can go either way, and you just really don't know. I mean, it never entered your mind that people were going to harm you.
Right.
It never entered my husband's mind when he was seeking treatment that they were going to harm him. So, and even within that same hospital system, there were a couple of male RNs that actually kind of looked out for him and helped him. While within the same system, there were female RNs that actually did harm him. So, I mean, you just don't know when you're looking at people which way they'll act, good or bad.
Yeah, you don't. Well, that's where the facility comes into play, and the administration and all those kind of things. And what's the bottom line that they're actually, it's always about management. In any profession, it's about management, how good or bad the management is, however you want to label it. There's management in medical care, certainly, and what their standards are. I mean, you have to uphold the standards. I mean, and the ethics, especially. I mean, this is the highest standards you can possibly get, along with, say, the legal stuff, maybe the court system, jails, the Supreme Court. Let's go all the way to that. These are the highest standards that you have to be held accountable to. When they start slipping away, what do you really have? I mean, this poor soul, I hopefully has some kind of quality of life. But I mean, for me, if that was me, I'd be scared to death for the rest of my life to even walk into a medical building. On that note, I hate to leave on that note, but stay tuned to Evergreen Media Network.